Hey folks, it's Craig from the Vinyl Record Player. Today I'm talking about greatest hits that are good enough for me. Stick around. Okay, and we're back. Yeah, I just thought I'd put together this video. I don't have almost any greatest hits records. I tend to like the idea of albums now. I spent a lot of years with, with iPods and stuff like that, and a lot of years with MP3s, and I did a lot of shuffling. So in the past few years, I just kind of changed to I really like albums. So greatest hits aren't necessarily, my move, and in fact, I just putting this together, I really had to scratch because I just don't have the greatest hits. Because often, when I get into a band, the greatest hits is usually not something I look towards. I look towards albums. But at any rate, let's talk about 5 greatest hits that I think, they're suitable, and I think that's good. And I don't know that I really necessarily need anything else. We'll start out with the Shirelles' greatest hits. This will probably be like about a mid '60s release on the original Scepter. I did actually notice that. Something tells me that this was released right around the time that Everybody Loves a Lover was released. It's got all the classics on it. I mean, Will You Love Me Tomorrow, Soldier Boy, Tonight's the Night. This is a fantastic package of the Shirelles. And I don't know really how much more you need. And that's simply because, the Shirelles come from more of that early 60s range, although they did kind of continue until the early 70s. And frankly, there just are not, that was not a time for albums. You know what I mean? Like for soul albums specifically. Because a lot of groups would record, a single, and then they'd record just a ton of filler. And I mean, really, in that particular era, a lot of times with albums, you're just basically hoping that the filler isn't complete garbage. Whereas this album, it's fantastic. From basically Dedicated to the One I Love, Baby It's You, the whole package is on here. Really like the Shirelles. Actually, they're probably my favorite girl group. And yeah, up until now, I think this is sufficient. So let's move on to number 2. Talk about Timepiece, the Rascals' greatest hits. Now, this is practically complete. I'm willing to say it's practically complete. The one thing that's missing is their number one hit, People Got to Be Free from 1968, which, as a little bit of a tidbit on People Got to Be Free, is that it actually held back Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf from the number 1 spot. Steppenwolf only reaching number 2 that week. So People Got to Be Free, that's probably my favorite Rascals jam. Not on this, which is kind of a burn. I think this is a Canadian pressing. Yeah. And anyway, this is a really good record. I say this specifically about the Rascals because I've purchased a couple of their albums. I purchased Freedom Suite from '68, which does have People Got to Be Free. It's a double album with kind of one album and then another one that's a little bit more jammy, trying to be psychedelic. I've listened to other Rascals albums, and as far as I can tell, I think you could probably have Groovin', because I've listened to that album and I'm like, it's great. But for some reason, they just kind of fell off a cliff after People Got to Be Free. Not only in the charts, although weirdly they continued to chart in Canada, where they were just a monstrously huge. But everything I've heard from them on albums, post Freedom Suite and Freedom Suite, not that great. Really kind of surprising to me because, there are some jams on here, like Lonely Too Long. Oh, just a heartbreaking jam. A Girl Like You, Groovin', It's Wonderful. I mean, these guys did some great hits. Particularly for like a blue-eyed soul band. Fantastic stuff. But you know what? After trying a few times on different albums, maybe ignoring kind of the later period once kind of a couple of the guys had already left, I just never really saw a need to get any more Rascals. So there's my number 2. Number 3, come on, man. History by America. Whoa! Bit of a classic. Friend of mine always notes he grew up, he was a kid in the 70s, and he always says that, that was the thing. You could crap all over Led Zeppelin all as much as you want, but you can't hate America. Yeah, obviously. Anyway, it's a joke, but it has its humor. At any rate, this is really all kind of their classics. I believe this was remixed by George Martin later and became like this monster seller. But I mean, obviously, if you don't know America, you should at least hear this album, which is really fantastic. Horse with No Name, I Need You, Ventura Highway, my favorite, Don't Cross the River, which has like these kind of haunting sort of background vocals that are just like, oh, it's a killer song. Tin Man, Lonely People. Please, this song, I still play this song very often. It's like a great chill record, and yeah, those hits are fantastic. I have tried listening to some of the LPs just on a regular basis. It's just, I'm just not feeling it. So anyway, there's my third choice. This is actually from my father and mother's collection. Actually, I took this one the last time I was in town, and I freaking love it. This I think is different because really, Mr. Croce really only had 3 albums. He had a couple where he kind of did a folk duo with his wife, and I've heard some of the material, and it's like a funkier version of Ian and Sylvia. I don't love that. So, but this album, I think everybody should have this album at the very least. He does only have 3 albums. So while I'm sure those albums are great, this, you're packing on the hits here. I mean, Don't Mess Around with Jim, Operator, Photographs and Memories, Working at the Car Wash Blues. All of it is really good. I gotta say, I'm a fan. Jim is one of those guys, like many of the guys who kind of got in a small plane and then just never came back, which is kind of terrible. But at any rate, Jim Croce, Photographs and Memories, his greatest hits. I'd say I call this a must-have. And then, of course, the final one, we'll go with Linda Ronstadt, Greatest Hits, Volume 2. I'm kind of a semi-fan of Linda Ronstadt, but not to the point where I'm like, oh man, I need to get all those albums. I know she has a lot of great albums, fantastic singer, beautiful woman, etc., etc. But yeah, this one's got You're No Good, Desperado. One that I would really like to see is actually Colorado. Although that's not, I don't think that one is on this one. Anyway, this was more just given to me as a gift, and I've kind of kept it around. I'm not sure how many times I've really listened to it, but it is a good one. I think Linda Ronstadt may be one of those artists where if you're just getting into her, Greatest Hits will suffice. And of course, this is a bonus for all you people who are still hanging around. How about more Creedence Gold here? More Creedence Gold. I have heard Creedence so many times. I love Creedence. I think they're fun. They're great. I think John Fogerty is just a master at what he does. But I feel like, and there are those who will definitely disagree. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I've never listened to a full album by them. I've only listened to this, or I may have had Creedence Gold at one point. At any rate, this one's got Hate Tonight, Fortunate Son, Who Will Stop the Rain, I Put a Spell on You, Up Around the Bend. You can't really go wrong with any Creedence greatest hits because, Creedence rock. The only thing that, again, that my issue with Creedence is simply that I've heard them so many times on the radio that I'm just like, oh, you don't want to hear them all the time, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, that was my 5 greatest hits that I think they'll suffice. So, yeah, like, subscribe, let me know, am I deeply wrong? Like, should I be looking for some deep cuts on America or some B-sides of Creedence? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you next time.